Welcome to Barbury and the EquiRatings preview show for leg 4 of the 2018 Event Rider Masters Series. We're into the second half of the series, and my goodness, we have still got 3 incredible legs for you. The series leaderboard is hotting up, and here to talk through all of the contenders and what we can look forward to at Barbury, EquiRatings Sam Watson. Sam, we're delighted to have you with us. We can't wait for a few EquiRatings predictions as well.
Nicole, I love Barbury. I love coming here. You can see everything. Wherever you are in this place, you can see the most spectacular cross-country course in front of you. And 2 pretty spectacular phases to kick us off as well. Dressage set behind us here. Beautiful main arena. Show jumping. It's everything. It's everything that we want in the Event Rider Masters.
Ticks all the boxes.
Ticks all the boxes.
And we've got the field to match this weekend because the field here is incredible. There's real strength in depth. But let's just talk for a moment about what it is going to take to win here at Barbury. What does a rider need to finish on to be in with a title chance?
Well, the last 2 winners of a Barbury ERM leg both finished in the 20s. So we're going to need to see that. That's over 70% in the dressage. It's not easy to do. Only 5% of Event Rider Masters combinations will actually get above 75%, so that would give them a little bit of a cushion. They could have a fence down, but as we know, you don't really win Event Rider Master classes with having a show jump down. So they're going to have to start strong in the 20s and then finish there. And with the speed that's required on these hills behind us, that's not difficult to do. So we've got to have strong starters.
And Barbury is a bit of a record-setting place, isn't it? Because we've actually got the record finishing score, is it here?
We do. We got the record finishing score, and in the last 2 seasons at Barbury, when the Event Rider Masters has come here, back in 2016, Marcio Carvalho George from Brazil came in, kind of shocked us, but stunned us and wowed us and the judges, and he set the record dressage score in the Masters in 2016. Fast forward the clock 12 months, your favourite horse, Thomas Carlyle and Upsilon. He came in and he produced this score, which if we translate it into the scoring system that we're now using in 2018, would be a score 20.5. Really, really top notch. That remains the best dressage score we've ever seen in Event Rider Masters history. And he's back. Thomas Carlyle and Upsilon are back.
They're back. And it didn't go to plan in our field last time out. So I must admit, I, for one, am really rooting for them this weekend. But before we go into each of the contenders in a little bit more detail, the dressage is going to really play a part this weekend, isn't it?
It does. It's been a long time since the winner of the Barbury 3 Stars come from outside the top 5 after dressage.
Okay.
So that was Nicola Wilson, an opposition buzz, great English stalwart. Always used to be Pathfinder for the English teams. Nicola's back here again with one too many. She was the last person to come from outside the top 5 and win Barbury. Basically, the question is, if you want to find the winner this weekend, who can go into the top 5 in that first phase? That's a question you should be asking yourself.
Well, that's the question that's why you're here, Sam. That's the question that we're going to ask you. So who is going to be the top 5 after dressage? Who are the big contenders in that first phase before we look at the jumping? Okay,
so a few obvious ones. You've got your ERM record dressage combination. They're stunning. Thomas Carlyle and Upsilon. They've got the record. They led at Arville last week. They're just so consistent. They've got the best 3-star CIC 3-star average in the field. They're the only horse and rider that average over 75%. Average over 75%. I mean, they're so consistent and so good in that phase. Then I think Oliver Townend and Kilnabrad and Evo, they love the Event Rider Masters. They were really the stars of the ERM series in 2016. They won 2 legs and they finished second in the final leg at Blenheim. But their dressage has been really strong this year. They came out at Wiesbaden, produced a really good performance, and then again at Arville as well. You saw them there, Nicole. They were really good in that phase as well.
They were 3rd, I think, after dressage in Arville. But actually, just going back to that Wiesbaden test, because Oliver Townend and Kilnabrad and Evo, 22.8, I think they scored. They were hot on the heels of the eventual winners and the reigning European champions.
Yeah, they actually could have nearly won that weekend. They had a couple of seconds over on the cross-country. So they've sort of found a new gear. They're very consistent in the phase as well. So I think 2 obvious ones, Upsilon and Kilnabrad and Evo. Then not last year's, 2 weeks ago, the most recent winner of an Event Rider Masters leg, Polly Star and Christopher Burton. We always champion him for his ability to go quickly on the cross country. He's a speed rider, but he's also very, very proficient in the first phase. And he just got this huge improvement out of Polystar. He took over 10 marks off the dressage from Wiesbaden to Orville.
Can we talk about this for a second? Because he scored 34 in Wiesbaden and he was sub 24 in Orville. I mean, that is just an enormous improvement. Is that what we're going to see this weekend? Are we going to see somewhere in the middle? What do you think?
Well, let's break it down objectively. I think a few things happened in Wiesbaden. One, the marking was quite difficult. It was quite hard to get marks that day. The judges were they were being quite conservative, and they remained very level throughout the competition, but they weren't throwing away marks. When we thought Ingrid Klimke could break the record, and she produced a stunning test, but it didn't quite break the record. So I think even his mark that day was a little bit harsh. Then Polystar was show jumping all last year. He wasn't doing dressage, so had a bit of sort of cobwebs to dust off as well. And Polystar and Chris Burton, even though they are the only they're one of two combinations in the field to have won at Barbury before the CIC 3-star. Thomas Carlyle and Upsilon are the other. They don't have that many runs together, so they're still improving as a combination, getting to know each other. So I think that the 24 that we saw will be sustained. I think that Chris Burton and Polystar absolutely ones to watch. They finished on their dressage score here in a non-ERM class, but in the 3-star at Barbury, and they're hot favourites for me.
Okay, so in terms of who's going to lead the first phase, can we ask for an EquiRatings prediction?
Oh yeah.
Out of the big three, you know I love to put you on the spot, Sam. The listeners, the viewers, they love it.
It's one of those three, but and I'm going to sort of just go with the odds. I'm going to go with Upsilon. You know, you love him, and he's so consistent, and you just have to go with the numbers. It's the straight. He's the easy option on that. Yes, Berto, if he keeps that improvement with Polystar, we could be really in for something special. But we'll see. Where it gets interesting is who's going to join those three obvious ones from the first phase. A couple of real old favourites in there, Nicole. William Fox-Pitt, Bay My Hero.
Who's the old favourite there? William or Bay My Hero?
Well, I think they both are. I think they both are. And then Sir Mark Todd and NZB Campino. They're very consistent in the first phase as well. I'd be inclined. I mean, I think either of those two names are really valid combinations to have up in your top 5 for dressage. Ones I'm interested in: Tim Price and Ascona M. I think this is a younger mare and still improving.
And she was on the podium, wasn't she, last year at Blenheim, finished second in the series finale behind Be Touchable and Izzy Taylor. Be Touchable heading to Jardy next weekend as well. Keep an eye out for that one. But, I mean, she hasn't quite recreated that form this spring, but Tim, I think, is quietly hopeful.
Yeah, it's in there. They've won an international 3-star before at Harris Depana in France. They've got some ERM form. And remember that Tim is someone who we're very much talking about as a series winner. He'll want to be the series leader again after this weekend. So he's absolutely 100% motivated. And I think in Ascona M, he's got a horse with the right profile. Very consistent. They actually have the second best average in CIC 3-star combinations from this field. So they really expect them to be in the mid-20s. And I think if they can improve again, they could hit that 75% barrier, so score below 25, and that would put them right up there.
Well, we've talked about a few of the big key contenders in the dressage. The next phase is the show jumping. You know, the coloured poles here at Barbury weren't perhaps as influential last year as we've got a little bit used to seeing in the Event Rider Masters series.
Yeah, it's actually the only time in an Event Rider Masters that we've seen more than 50% of the field jump clear. 41% was actually the previous highest, and that was at Chatsworth in the very first ERM, and a field that was really hot and full of good jumpers. What we usually see in an ERM leg is that 25% jump clear, so that's 1 in 4. Last year was really uncharacteristic to see 60% show jumping clear here. I think that won't happen, and if anything, when you see something like that happen in the sport, that it goes one way one year, they can nearly overcompensate the following year and make it could be a real proper show jumping track. And then you're going to see a lot of the names that we've already talked about. If we pitch this as three horses that we think could score really low, with Upsilon, Kilnabrad, Nevo, and Polystar, I think that Polystar and Kilnabrad, Nevo will like a big show jumping track. They're both very accomplished.
Polystar has been out last year when he wasn't eventing with Chris Burton. He was jumping well over 2 metres in a puissance with David Simpson. I mean, that is quite incredible for an event horse. So Polystar, good in the show jumping. You said he's jumped clear here at Barbury before. Kilnabrad and Evo, Oliver Townend. I think Derm in RVL a couple of weeks ago was getting quite excited about a bit of string that Oliver's putting together.
Yeah, well, it's a combination of Andrew Nicholson, his previous rider, but mainly Oliver's never had a show jump down on this horse. And he is now 15 consecutive clear show jumping rounds. So Kilnabrad and Evo, one of the best show jumpers in eventing in the world. So he'd like to see a tough track in there, I think, on Sunday morning, along with Chris Burton. Now, the ones who have buckets of talent, they also show jumped in 1.40 m classes in pure show jumping. And that's Tom Carlyle and Upsilon. But the wheels have just come off the odd time. It happened in Chatsworth last season, and it happened in Arville 2 weeks ago. So, you know, they have the ability to handle a really big show jumping track, but that's going to be a really exciting phase. Talking about a make or break phase for a potential winner of the weekend, I think watching Upsilon in that second phase is going to be very, very important.
And actually, that's a very good point, because 12 months ago, if we rewind the clock, actually, Upsilon's show jumping with Tom was just out of this world. He was untouchable.
Stunning. One of the best show jumping rounds we've ever seen in you know, in this series. So stunning. So they have the ability. And then after that, like that's the one thing I love about the show jumping phase. You know, this sport is about finishing as close to zero as possible. And the reality is that in that middle phase, about 25%, about 1 in 4 will actually get the perfect score, which is 0. But it can just, you know, one moment, one kind of lack of accuracy, one lapse of concentration, 4 penalties. You dropped quite a long way. And if that happens in a combination, sometimes a related distance, that could be 8 penalties, which is really what we saw with Upsilon last week. Got a little bit close to the vertical and then down to fence 3, where it just went wrong then for them as well. But it was just one moment, falling in a little bit on a turn, and it's all gone. It's a really, really fun phase to watch.
It is the absolute margins, isn't it? And actually, you say 1 pole in the show jumping, it equates to 10 seconds out on the cross country. 10 seconds here at Barbury is a hell of a lot, because the time here is generally very tough.
Yeah, generally very tough. The first season we came here in 2016, it was complete outlier. We saw nearly a third of the field actually make the time. So it was 34%, and that was 10 combinations out of the field. Managed to beat the clock here at Barbury. That was never been done before, and or since, and I really can't see it happening again. I've had a little walk around the course, and it's back to its usual characteristic self. We're going along those hills on the cambers, turns. You know, Mark Phillips has really thought about how to slow these riders down, and it's just going to be very, very difficult. I'm actually wondering whether anyone can beat the clock. There's so many classy riders in there. When it comes to speed, we've got 4 of the best in the world, in my opinion, in the field with quick horses. So it should be done. But boy, it's a challenge out there.
You know we're going to ask you to name those 4 riders, don't you?
Well,
do you want me to guess?
Go on, have a guess.
Go for
have
it.
a guess.
I'm going to say Andrew Nicholson.
Good, because he's not one we've talked about yet.
No, and Swallow Springs, I think, a bit of a dark horse this weekend.
And we shouldn't be. We're at Barbury, and we've just mentioned Andrew Nicholson. He has won Barbury 5 times. So like that is incredible. 4 times with the Great Avery. But he was the ERM champion. It's the only ERM leg he's won. But it was here at Barbury. He loves it. This is his local show, and we've already seen him riding around here on younger horses and whatnot. So. And Swallow Springs is, I put him up in the, you know, already in one of our podcast previews as I think a horse who could certainly get on the podium, and so I think Andrew's definitely going to be one to watch this weekend.
Okay, so fast riders. We've got Andrew Nicholson. We've ticked him off the list. Swallow Springs was actually 2nd in a 3-star here last year as well, so course form. Chris Burton.
Absolutely. Chris Burton goes clear inside the time in 33% of his CIC 3-stars. It's just it's
He's
a number.
He's a machine.
Yeah, unbelievable. So yes, absolutely. And look, we champion him all the time for that. It's absolutely the phase to tune in for. You have to watch Chris Burton when he's on cross country, because you got to work out, how does he do it? He doesn't look like he's going fast.
He never looks like he's moving a muscle. He makes it look so seamless that you almost get lulled into this false sense of security watching him. You're just like, yeah, he's just going for a little canter around the park.
People say that he has bought some kind of genius hacker to kind of slow time down as he's going, because they can't understand how he is. He'd be a very rich man if he did that. So we've got Chris Burton and Andrew Nicholson. Oliver Townend would be another. Absolutely. He's made the time in 3 stars more than any other rider in the world. He's week in, week out. He's quick, and he does it at a high rate as well. He's 26%, so he goes inside the time 1 in 4 occasions that he goes out. And again, an Event Rider Masters, he's on a horse who can do it as well.
And the fourth person?
Fourth person, Busy Izzy Taylor, Director General. I think her and this horse, they're a new combination. For them, the phase to watch is the first phase. They've been in the 30s every time they've been out. They need to try and get a 20s first phase score, because if they can, then they're going to be one of the hot favourites to finish on that score. Not many people can finish on their dressage score. Only 18 people across the whole Event Rider Masters history have managed to finish on their dressage score. And I reckon that Izzy's one of them who can do it.
So in terms of the series then, because Izzy actually, with a good finish this weekend, she's got 28 points on the board already. She's heading to Jardy next week with Be Touchable, who won at Blenheim last year. If she can get into the sort of top 5 or 6 territory, she's going to seriously put herself back up the series leaderboard.
Yeah, and she needs to, like, the Event Rider Masters, this is what everybody's focusing on now. We've had our Arville 2 weeks ago. We're here in Barbury, then we've got Jardy coming up. But we're running out of time a little bit. This is the turning point. You have to, there's no point now. It's not all about plans and the future and looking at what's ahead. Now is the time to put a big performance on the board. And that's what I think Izzy will be looking to do. She has the ability, but she's got to get a strong start here this week.
Now, Laura Collett, our series leader, 52 points on the board so far. Chris Burton in second with 49 points is hot on her heels. Laura comes forward with De Capo, who's another relatively inexperienced horse for her. Can she cling on to that top spot in the series this weekend?
Well, look at what Laura did with London 2 weeks ago. I think that was a huge performance from her. She's absolutely on fire. Brilliant 4-star result with Mr. Bass on debut. Came second in Le Moulin. I just think a rider who is blooming onto the circuit this year. Izzy Taylor sort of did it last year. You know, riders that we've known for ages are full of talent, but to come up and put those big results on the board, I think De Capo is. I'm in 2 minds. You know, you look at his last 6 runs. He's made the time every time in his CCI competitions, but hasn't made the time in the CIC competitions. I think that's where they will drop a few penalties here. It will be on these hills behind us, but they've got 2 3-star runs in the 20s both times, so in dressage, so they'll start strong. But then they had a 20 penalties in their first CIC 3-star, put the wheels back on the wagon at Houghton where they finished 6th. For me, that should be the goal, to try and finish 6th again, because that's going to get them the series points that they need.
Well, can she hold on to the top spot? That is going to be our next EquiRatings prediction. We know that EquiRatings think Upsilon, Thomas Carlyle are going to lead the first phase. Can Laura Collett hold on to the top spot in the series? And if not, who's going to be on top of the series podium at the end of this weekend?
I think that Chris Burton is just too strong. I think, you know, Polystar has the course form, he's got recent form, he's got ERM form, and if you're coming to a CIC 3-star and you know that the time is going to be a factor, then you just do not want to be up against Christopher Burton. He's just so lethal on that cross-country course. He's so clinical. And you know, if you're another rider and he's probably going to be near the end because he's got such a strong first phase, show jumps well. And you're out there, if you're Laura Collett and you go out and you try and get that really good result and you're there on the podium, and then you have to sit back and watch Chris Burton, you're just going to see him playing with the course and you're thinking, please get time penalties, please get time penalties. But he doesn't. He's too good. So, final prediction. Who is going to be on the podium this weekend? I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours. Okay. There we go. Should I let the ladies go first then? Go on, I've talked far too much. Ladies first. Upsilon. Right. He is going to win with Thomas Carlyle. I think it's redemption for him, isn't it?
Redemption Day. I like that. That's going to stick this weekend, Sam.
Yeah, redemption day for Thomas
Perfect.
Carlyle and Upsilon.
Second, I'm going to say Oliver Townend. Oliver Townend, Kilner Rudney, but I nearly went to change my mind and went Chris Burton, Polystar. I'll sit on the fence. The fence is a nice place to be. And third, Gemma Tattersall, Pamiro 4.
So you've left Chris Burton off your podium. What's interesting about this, Nicole, is I am going to go for a completely different podium to you. So you've got Thomas Carlyle first, Oliver Townend second, and Gemma Tattersall third. I'm going to say Chris Burton wins it. I'm going for complete Southern Hemisphere domination here. Christopher Burton and Polystar are going to be your winners this weekend. In second place is Mr. Barbury, Andrew Nicholson and Swallow Springs. And in third place, another man who's fairly local, another Kiwi, Tim Price and Ascona M. That's my third. So we're really doing battle this weekend.
We're totally doing battle this weekend because we are at odds. Well, who is going to win? You're going to have to tune in eventridermasters.tv to catch all of the action throughout the weekend to find out if Sam or I or either of us or you at home, will you be right? Send us your predictions as well. Get involved using the hashtag ERMeventing and make sure you get involved. It is a big weekend for the series and it is a big weekend of sport here at beautiful Barbury Castle. Make sure you join us. We go live at 9:35 British Summer Time tomorrow. That's Saturday morning for all of the dressage action. It's a big weekend of sport. England facing Sweden as well. And Ludvig Svennesdahl for Sweden will be looking to get on the podium here this weekend. Well, make sure you join us because it promises not to be a disappointment here at Barbury. Will either of us be right? You'll have to tune in to find out.